years ago, Audi started the Want an R8 hashtag campaign. Simply tweet to the company, and if you were lucky, an R8 showed up at your door for a one-day loan. Many tweeted, few were selected, and for those folks, I give you this, the 2016 Audi TTS. Now in its third generation, the TT definitely has taken on a more masculine and aggressive look. In fact, it looks a little bit like the R8. I've got the same wide, low hood that tucks in really nicely to the single frame grille, and that's flanked by two intakes that both serve the turbocharger. Just like the R8, I've got full LED headlights that rake up really sharply, and I've got a nice sloping roof towards the back. In fact, the only thing that's not to like about the exterior of this car is the color. Now, Audi calls it nano gray metallic, but I don't really see anything metallic in it. I would probably call it flat gray concrete. Audi's made the interior of the TTS a minimalist dream, and they've done that by incorporating the climate controls directly onto the vents themselves. Now that leaves my center console free for just these very few buttons, but obviously I'm missing a few options because I've got two blank buttons. And for a company that's really renowned for making very precise design choices, this stands out. There isn't a lot of storage in the cockpit of the TTS. I've got a little cubby behind my gear shift and a hidden cup holder in my armrest. But really, you're going to be traveling light, and you'll be traveling light on passengers too. Audi says that this is a 2+2, but really, I don't think they've seen any full-grown humans lately. The only thing you're going to be putting in the back seat is kids and cargo. Probably the coolest thing in the interior is the Audi's virtual cockpit, and it's so cool that it won the Shift Award this year for the best interior tech. Now I've got a 12.3-inch navigational and infotainment screen, and that's right here in my gauge cluster, so I never really have to take my eyes off the road to access my information. I can switch between views, I can have a full map, I can have partial map, I can have a large tachometer. It's really, really nifty. And I can also access Google Maps, but unfortunately, I need a special SIM card, and it didn't come with this test model, so I can't show you how cool it is, but trust me, it's awesome. And while the design interface is really cool, unfortunately the whole system seems to be just not as intuitive as I would like. I found myself going to submenus kind of stumbling upon them rather than going to them with any kind of a purpose. Everything's operated here on the center console, and I've got a few standalone buttons for the most common commands. Now, when you're inputting your destination, you really should do it by voice, as the only other option is to write it here on the MMI pad. It's pretty accurate, but it does take a long time. The TTS has got 4 different drive modes, and that controls 5 different driving characteristics. So if you're a bit of a control freak, just go ahead and put it in individual. That's going to allow you to control the engine and transmission, the steering, the level of Audi Quattro-ness, the suspension, as well as the exhaust note. But keep in mind, when they say dynamic, they mean dynamic, especially when it comes to the suspension. In dynamic mode, it is so harsh over any kind of public road. It's just not worth it. I found myself putting the car in comfort most of the time, and this is coming from someone that likes to feel every single little bump in the road. Now, in city driving and commuting, the car does pretty good at shifting on its own. You're pretty fast off the line, it's very easy to merge onto the highway, but when you get into the twisties, you really need to put it into manual mode. Otherwise, it just upshifts too quickly and downshifts too late to really satisfy my driving need to just dig into these corners. So I found myself putting it in manual mode, going right into the corners, blipping it into second, and powering right out of a turn. And I'm pleased to report that the notorious Audi steering has gotten better, at least in terms of weight and ratio. It's got a nice heft to it in dynamic mode. You can always put it in comfort mode if you want something lighter, and it's really quick for your inputs. Unfortunately, what's happening on the road doesn't really translate up into the steering wheel and into your hands. I mean, I really have no idea what level of grip my summer tires are at. And it's no slouch in the straight line performance either. Audi claims that this car can go from 0 to 60 in 4.6 seconds, and that's the same as an R8 Spider V8 with a manual, so, you know. There you go. But it's much cheaper than an R8, right? You're gonna need about $51,900 to buy this car, but if you want this one with the navigation, the Napa leather, and the awesome Bang & Olufsen stereo system, you're gonna be looking at $58,500. Just make sure you get it in red. It's tough to say what competes directly with the Audi TTS. I mean, how many 2+2 or even 2-seat all-wheel drive coupes do you know of that aren't already in the Audi stable? Sure, you could substitute the all-wheel drive for a mid-engine layout and look at the Porsche Cayman, or if you'd like a drop top, maybe you should look at the BMW Z4.